request all the gathering to please appreciate and request them to applaud. I request the dignitaries to kindly occupy the seats in the front. Yes. I request all the gathering to please be seated upon. ವಕ್ರತುಂಡ ಮಹಾಕಾಯ ಸೂರ್ಯಕೋಟಿ ಸಮಪ್ರಭ ನಿರ್ವಿಘ್ನಂ ಕುರುಮೆ ದೇವ ಸರ್ವ ಕಾರ್ಯೇಷು ಸರ್ವದಾ. First of all, I would like to extend the best wishes of birth anniversary of Bharat Ratna Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar ji on this very special day of 14th of April. May I request Sri Vilas Naik ji, the young business leader of coastal Karnataka, to welcome the dignitaries and the gathering. Vilas ji, please.
Honorable Member of the Parliament, a man who is more of a social entrepreneur and who values social capital more than anything, Sri Raju Chandrasekhar ji. Honorable Major, a person who has received president, a person who has represented us in most of the athletes in games abroad, and probably his Limca Book of Records is for the maximum number of medals representing India. Dignitaries of the dais, members of different groups, probably from platform for women entrepreneurs to District Small Industries Association, Chartered Accountants Association, veterans, ex-army men, and all those students and dignitaries who are going to decide the future of Udupi district in the coming days, and also the doctors. Welcome one and all. It's way back in 1998 that in the manifesto it was mentioned by BJP then that the nuclear missiles would be part of our arsenal. Since then, probably the strategists have started considering manifesto seriously. Because till 1998, till the nuclear tests were conducted, nobody took the manifesto seriously. And after it was mentioned there, and it was practiced after that, that's when our manifesto came into enforcement. And today, I think all of you are here to discuss national security and different issues which are mentioned in our manifesto and which will be implemented in future times. So I welcome one and all who are present here. This would be a formal function for next 45 minutes wherein Sri Raju Chandrasekhar ji as well as Major Punya ji would be talking, and after that the floor would be open for all your questions. Thank you one and all.
May I request Professor Balakrishna S. Madodi to kindly give a brief introduction of Sri Raju Chandrasekhar ji to the gathering.
Dignitaries and of the dais. So I am proud, and it is our proud privilege to introduce Sri Raju Chandrasekhar, the Member of Parliament. Raju Chandrasekhar serves as a Member of Parliament in Rajya Sabha and represents Karnataka. Raju Chandrasekhar has a long connection with Udupi. He has done his Bachelor of Engineering, Electrical and Electronics at mighty MIT. So I think that I got a chance to introduce alumni. So when I met him last 1 year before in his office in Bangalore and talked to him, how do you feel about Manipal? He told, whatever I am today, it is just because of Manipal. So I am proud to you, sir, to have you in this gathering. As a parliamentarian, Raju is a proponent governance. He talks about governance and is well versed with the economics and national security reforms, and has been responsible for some of the Indian recent transformation legislation that includes the goods and service tax, that is the GST, bill, insurance laws, amendment that has taken place in the insurance laws, mines and minerals regulation bill, and also the auction spectrum and the real estate regulation bill are amongst the favorite of his topic. Under the title, Serving Our Nation, he has spearheaded a large number of initiatives for the veterans, widows, families, and also for the serving armed forces personnel, ranging from one rank, one pension, National War Memorial, voting rights for the armed personnel, and also the housings for the veterans. 7 CPC, the financial aid for the widows and the children of the martyrs are also his favorite topics. Raju is a strong supporter of the Indian Armed Forces. He has been recognized as a national champion for the rights of the soldiers and their families. The declaration countries as sponsors of the Terrorism Bill 2016 is one of his private member bill that has been resolved through his membership. In 2008, Rajiv served as the youngest president of FICCI, that is the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry. He presented a report on the internal security, and many recommendations that have been done have been accepted and been implemented by the government. Rajiv has been the voice of the men and women in the uniform who serves for the veterans who have served the armed forces since he has stepped in the parliament in 2006. Raju Chandrasekhar has also submitted another private member bill, the Armed Forces Convenient Bill, that encourages the pledging of commitments, the soldiers both retired and serving, to their families, and will be provided with the medical support, education, good quality and affordable accommodations. In BJP manifesto on welfare of servicemen includes a provision on the resettlement of the skilling of soldiers. Instrumental in establishing India's first national military memorial in Bangalore in 2012, Rajiv has also raised the demand of the National Military Memorial in Delhi consistently in Parliament, in and outside. It is the result where Narendra Modi government dedicated the National War Memorial to the people on 25th February 2019. We congratulate him. Through his foundation, Flags of Honors, he has reached out to the families of the armed forces, matters ensuring them for the financial and the social assistance and keeping the service and
Balakrishna Mandodi sir, may I request the district BJP president Shri Matta Ratnakar Hegde to kindly welcome Shri Professor Shri Raju Chandrasekhar ji by offering the bouquet. May I request to the MLA of Udupi Vidhan Sabha constituency Shri Raghupati Bhatt ji to kindly welcome the Major Surendra Punia ji by offering the bouquet. Thank you, sir. Before proceeding the program, I would like to mention that there are so many professionals gathered here today from throughout the Udupi district. Professionals from the Power, Women Empowerment Organization, the platforms, then commerce and industry, chartered accountants, small scale industry, ex-army, veterans, bar council, doctors, engineers, professionals, then including ex-bank employees, builders, and so many other people. Today we are here, a number of ex-army officials from commander rank, colonel, subedar, petty, nayak, lance nayak, havaldar, corporal, then sergeant, and so many people are here. It's a wonderful opportunity because this is the first time in this Karnataka we are having this kind of program, which is a buzz on the national security. May I request Honorable Rajya Sabha member Shri Raju Chandrasekhar ji to deliver the inaugural address. Over to you, sir.
Namaskara. My friends and colleagues in the country's largest political party, the BJP, my friends, my colleague and most recent entrant and a great soldier, Major Surendra Punia, ladies and gentlemen. I have attended many debates in Parliament, discussions outside Parliament about national security before I entered politics, after I entered politics. But I think the best phrasing of the issue of security that I've seen is this, which is secure India, prosperous India. And there is a reason for that, because it is the discussion and debate about security is not just about the armed forces, it's not just about the men and women in uniform, it's not about their sacrifices and service. It is also about a principal understanding and a clear understanding that if we want a prosperous India, if we want a great India, we need to have a secure India. These are two very interconnected concepts. For too long, these have been discussed in isolation. Discussions on economics happen without a discussion of security, and a discussion of security happens without a discussion on economics. And I suggest to you and I propose to you that these cannot be separated. If we are truly deserving of a legacy of a great India, of a prosperous India, we have to be a secure India. So let me start by asking all of you here two questions, and I want a show of hands. How many of you in this room want India or India's future to be one where India is a truly prosperous world economic power? Good. How many in this room likes the feeling or likes to feel proud about being Indian, proud about your country, India? Great. Now, assume that these two feelings, these two responses, are the responses for a vast majority of Indians. That we need to be a country that is prosperous. We need to be a country where we are a globally recognized economic power. And we need to be a country where being an Indian is something we are proud of. This is a feeling in most Indians. And this is what patriotism and nationalism is. For many years and many decades, being a nationalist, being a patriot, was seen as something not cool. I, till 2006, spent very little time in Delhi. And that is my good fortune. And it is, for those who have not spent time in Delhi, that is their good fortune. After 2006, because I was passionate about joining public life and serving the nation, I have to say that I spent a lot of time in Delhi because the parliament is in Delhi and that is the job that I had. And I realized very clearly that in Delhi, there was a very different approach to nationalism. To me, nationalism is what you just responded to. Wanting to see the future for our country that is bright and economically strong. So one thing I want to say before I launch into a discussion and debate about security and the economy, and this construct that a secure India means a prosperous India and a prosperous India means a secure India, is that there are 2-3 things that we need to understand very clearly. We are in election season. This is a very, very, very important election, and I'll tell you why it is an important election. And in a lot of ways, we have to say, I'm saying a few things that are in a sense required to be said because of the last 65 years, that is prior to Prime Minister Modi, we did not say this enough. The first point I want to say is this country, this great land, is a land that belongs to all Indians. 1947, the British left, and the vision and the idea that our founding fathers had was this country would become a great country on the energy, on the determination, on the hopes, aspirations of all Indians. Unfortunately, for 65 years, it got hijacked by one family. So the first thing I tell everybody today, I'm not giving you political rhetoric, I'm just telling you things as I feel. That we must be very clear that if we are to build a future for India that is strong, secure and prosperous, that we have to acknowledge and accept the responsibility that that future can be made only by us and should be made by us as in not a particular political party, but us as in citizens of India, and not outsource this to some dynasty or some dynasties. And the second point I want to make as a point of affirmation is that to reach your desire of India being strong, economically prosperous, and delivering prosperity and opportunity to the last man standing, the only way to achieve that security, that prosperity and economic strength is by being a secure nation. So I am telling you the causality and the effect that if we want to be economically strong, being secure and strong is almost a precondition. There are engineers in this audience, there are businessmen in this audience, and there are, I'm told, veterans in this audience. The two are not separable. Our destiny as an economic superpower is a destiny that we must fulfill. It is there for us to take, and I'll explain to you why. But for that destiny to be taken, to ensure that countries like China and other countries who do not like our rise do not stop our rise, we have to be secure. So when Prime Minister Modi a few days ago launches the anti-satellite missile, the main object or the main audience for that is people across the border who do not want to see the Indian economy and the Indian nation rise. It is for people, for example, in China to note that we will rise and we are quite capable of protecting our rise and securing ourselves during our rise with our capabilities and our national security doctrine. Why is India, so before I get again to security, let me tell you about little bit about how I see the destiny of India. So I have always maintained that a man who has never worked a day in his life, who's 49 years old and still calls himself young, has no business talking about anything as sophisticated as national security or indeed the economy. But he continues to do so. So the only way I say that we can respond, and we must respond, is to go back to what I said at the beginning of the speech. That we have to affirm and we have to continuously affirm to ourselves and reaffirm that the future of this country is far too bright and is far too important to us for us to leave it to gimmicks, to ill thought through and absolutely dangerous politicking of our security and of our economy. So in this election season, I tell everybody, don't be just amused. This is not about amusement. Be very, very angry. Be very, very determined. Because this destiny of ours as a nation cannot be lost because some of us have faith in a family that has misled this nation and given us false promises for many, many, many years and decades. I say again, and I'll end with that. A secure nation is an absolute pre-necessity for us to become a solid economic superpower. A secure nation is an absolute necessity for us to tackle the 7 decades of problems in our rural poor and the overall scourge of poverty in our country. And a secure India is an absolute necessity to change the economic model where a few Indian groups control the economy, control credit, control capital, and broad-base this into a country where thousands and millions of entrepreneurs and young minds and young businesses and young activities drive the economy rather than just a chosen few. I hope I have been able to shed some light on what I believe is the course for the future of our country. And I hope I've been able to connect the dots in terms of making the security of our nation as important as the future economy of the nation. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for delivering such a wonderful, electrifying and thought-provoking speech. I am sure that during your speech, you have sent message to all some of the national leaders through your speeches. Thank you very much. May I request Sri Yuvraj Gokul to introduce the Major Surendra Punia ji.
भारत माता की जय, भारत माता की जय, वंदे मातरम, वंदे मातरम.
Hi all. Major Dr. Surendra Punia is an international award-winning sportsman, Linka Book record holder, physician, former Special Forces officer of the Indian Army, and founder of Soldier-a-thon Marathon. He is the first Indian athlete with the rare distinction of having won medals in powerlifting and athletic events in 4 consecutive World Championships. Mr. Punia is an alumnus of the Armed Forces Medical College. He served with the President's bodyguard at Rashtrapati Bhavan, Special Forces and United Nations Peacekeeping Mission in Democratic Republic of Congo. Major Surendra Punia represented India in Croatia, Spain, Ireland and Turkey in 5 World Championships and won 27 medals including 10 golds. He is the first Indian powerlifter to have won gold in 4 consecutive championships from 2010 to 2013. And on January 26, 2012, he was felicitated by Vishishta Seva Medal. That can be an ordinary introduction I can give to a person like him. And I would like to ask you people, how many of you have seen the movie Uri? Almost all. How was the Josh? Okay. We have seen the South Indian movie stars running around the bullets and surviving. And here we have a hero who survived the bombs and the bullets on a day-to-day basis. Mr. Major. One more thing I want to tell. 2 days before, the Karnataka Chief Minister has given a statement that only poor man's children are joining Indian Army because they doesn't have any other option to earn bread and butter. Dear Kumaraswamy Avare, here is a man who did MBBS, left that, joined the
आदरणीय श्री राजीव चंद्रशेखर जी हेगड़े साहब, सेना के मेरे सारे सीनियर साथी, उडुपी शहर के सारे राष्ट्रवादी नागरिक और युवा साथियों, आप सबको मेरा जय हिंद कबूल हो। कबूल है, 3 बार बोलना पड़ता है, कबूल है कबूल है। वैसे राजीव सर ने नेशनल सिक्योरिटी के ऊपर जो बोलना चाहिए था वो सारा बोल दिया, तो मेरे पास बोलने को कुछ बचा नहीं है। Seniors are always right in army and that's true. और सबसे पहले मैं आप लोगों से कहूँगा कि एक बार सर के लिए तालियां बजाइए, इसलिए नहीं कि आज जो इन्होंने बोला है, इसलिए कि ये बंदा वो है जिसने हर फौजी का हाथ पकड़ा है, जो जिंदा है। देश की सरकार खड़ी नहीं हुई उन परिवारों के लिए जिन्होंने अपने बेटे देश के लिए कुर्बान कर दिए, लेकिन आप हमेशा साथ थे। शुक्रिया। आपने इतना अच्छा प्रोग्राम किया इस शहर में, तो जो भी देश में अच्छी चीज़ हो रही है उसका श्रेय नेहरू गांधी परिवार लेता है, और शायद इसका ले ले, इसलिए पहले ही मैं कहता हूं कि इस प्रोग्राम का सारा श्रेय नेहरू गांधी परिवार को। और सर ने कहा कि ऐसी इकोनॉमिक पॉलिसीज लेके आए हैं राजकुमार, तो मैं उसके लिए भी कह देना चाहता हूं कि जिन लोगों को भरोसा है देश के इटरनल युवा राहुल गांधी जी पे, क्योंकि जब तक वो युवा हैं तो हमारे जैसे सब लोग तो युवा रहेंगे। उन्होंने कहा 72,000 रुपये वो साल के देंगे, कई बार कहते हैं 72,000 करोड़ देंगे, जो भी है मतलब 72,000 मान लो। मेरी तरफ से ऑफर है, और इससे ज़्यादा अच्छा ऑफर शायद नहीं हो सकता। सर आप तो इकोनॉमी या बिजनेस कर रहे हैं कि जिन लोगों को उन पे भरोसा है कि 72,000 रुपये देंगे, उन लोगों को मैं कह रहा हूं कि मेरे को आप लोग 72,000 रुपये उधार दे दीजिए। सिर्फ उधार नहीं हुए, अगर 23 मई को राहुल गांधी अगर चुनाव जीत गए, प्रधानमंत्री बन गए, तो मैं 1,44,000 वापस दे दूंगा, वरना सारे पैसे मेरे। अगर आप में किसी में हिम्मत है, इतना जिगरा है, तो मैं अकाउंट युवराज के पास छोड़ के जा रहा हूँ, बीजेपी अध्यक्ष के पास छोड़ के जा रहा हूँ, दे देना। फौजी की जुबान है और मेरी जमानत राजीव सर ले रहे हैं। दोस्तों, टॉपिक था नेशनल सिक्योरिटी, सर ने सब कुछ बोल दिया है, तो मैं थोड़ा कुछ बचा हुआ उसमें मैं ऐड कर देता हूँ। राष्ट्रीय सुरक्षा, राष्ट्र क्या है? क्या है राष्ट्र? क्या कोई जमीन का टुकड़ा है? नहीं। हजारों साल की एक जो सांस्कृतिक, आध्यात्मिक और एक गौरवशाली इतिहास की जो परंपराओं और भावनाओं का जो संगम है, वो ये मुल्क है। ये सिर्फ ऐसे कोई लाइन नहीं खींची हुई मैप के ऊपर कि इधर से कश्मीर और इधर से उडुपी के नीचे केरला, कन्याकुमारी, नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है। तो अगर जब सुरक्षा की बात आई गई है, तो उस सांस्कृतिक धरोहर की, उस गौरवशाली इतिहास की, उसकी भी सुरक्षा कीजिए। इस देश के जो इकोनॉमिक और जो नेशनल असेट हैं, उसकी भी सुरक्षा कीजिए। और दूसरा है जो देश की जो बॉर्डर वाली सिक्योरिटी और इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी है, जिस पे सर ने डिस्कस किया है। मैं जब देखता हूं तो मुझे इस देश का इतिहास सिर्फ दो जगह दिखता है, एक 1947 से पहले का और एक 1947 के बाद का। 1947 का जो पहले का इतिहास है, उसमें अंग्रेज आते हैं, उसमें तुगलक आते हैं, उसमें खिलजी आता है, उसके अंदर बाबर, साबर, हुमायूं, ग्रेट द अकबर, सकबर, सब लोग आते हैं। कोई एक दो लाइन महाराणा प्रताप, शिवाजी जैसे लोगों के लिए, या आपके कोई पुरखे हैं उनके लिए कोई आ गई किसी छोटे मोटे शहर में, गलती से आ गई तो आ गई, अदरवाइज फिर नेहरू और गांधी जी आते हैं। और आज़ादी के इतिहास, आज़ादी के बाद में जो इतिहास है, उसके अंदर सिर्फ नेहरू जी और उनका जो गांधी परिवार है वो आता है। उस इतिहास में कहीं भी देश के 21 परमवीर चक्र विजेता हैं जिनको देश का सर्वोच्च सम्मान मिला है, उनका नाम नहीं है। उस इतिहास में 4 जंग हुए हैं और आपने जीते हैं, उसका कहीं उल्लेख नहीं है। उस इतिहास में 1975-77 की इमरजेंसी हुई, उसका कहीं उल्लेख नहीं है। भाई, मैं 77 में पैदा हुआ, मैंने मेरी माँ से पूछा, वो पढ़ी लिखी नहीं है। मैंने कहा मैं कैसे पैदा होगा इमरजेंसी में? तो मेरी माँ ने बोला कि तेरे फादर छुपते थे खेतों में जाके, खेतों में जो अनाज पड़ा होता था उसके अंदर जगह निकाल के रात को छुपते थे, और मैं बाहर कपड़ा डाल के आती थी, क्योंकि संजय गांधी, इंदिरा गांधी की पुलिस घूमती थी और जितने जो जवान लड़के थे उनकी जबरदस्ती नसबंदी करते थे। मेरे गांव में आज भी मेरे पिताजी की उम्र के कम से कम 40 बुजुर्ग जिंदा हैं जिनकी शादियां नहीं हुई। उन लोगों की बद्दुआएं लगेगी। इसीलिए तो ऐसा राष्ट्रीय हीरो पैदा किया इन्होंने। ये बद्दुआओं का हाल ही तो है जिनको ये नहीं पता कि बोलते क्या है। एक चीज बताइए कि एक औरत के लिए मातृत्व से बड़ी कोई शायद उपमा नहीं होगी कि वो मां बने जिंदगी में, लेकिन किसी आदमी के लिए भी शायद ये होता होगा कि उसके भी कभी बच्चे हों। ये वो परिवार है जिन्होंने जानबूझ के लोगों के साथ ये किया। तो अब हम इमरजेंसी में पैदा हुए हैं तो इनकी इमरजेंसी तो खत्म करेंगे हम। मैं एक बार जब कश्मीर में था तो जो हमारी जो आर्मी होती है उसमें पंडित जी होते हैं, ग्रंथी होते हैं, मौलवी जी होते हैं। तो वहाँ पे पंडित जी कहानी सुना रहे थे। उन्होंने कहा मोहम्मद गौरी ने 17 बार अटैक किया। सैनिक सम्मेलन चल रहा था, उसके अंदर जो मंदिर पूजा होती है जिसमें सारे हर धर्मों के सारे हमारे साथी बैठते हैं, तो पंडित जी सब जवानों को मोटिवेट कर रहे थे। उन्होंने कहा कि मोहम्मद गौरी ने 17 बार अटैक किया और 17वीं बार सफल हुआ, तो आपको कभी हिम्मत नहीं हारनी चाहिए। तो जो हमारे मौलवी जी बैठे थे, जो फौजी, उन्होंने कहा 17 बार तुम्हारी भारत माँ पे अटैक किया तो थोड़ी बहुत शर्म नहीं आ रही है क्या? कौन सा एग्जाम्पल दे रहे हो आप? अरे भगत सिंह का कहीं नाम नहीं है इस इतिहास से। उन्होंने उनको आज भी देख लो जाके आप, चंद्रशेखर आजाद भगत सिंह को उन्होंने आतंकवादी बोल रखा है। सेकंड प्राइम मिनिस्टर लाल बहादुर शास्त्री जिनकी हत्या की गई, मरे नहीं थे साहब, हत्या की गई है। किसने मारा, क्यों मारा? संविधान जो बाबा साहब ने बनाया था उस संविधान को उन्होंने बदल के उसमें सेकुलर और सोशलिज्म जोड़ दिया। कौन होते हैं लोग? हिंदुस्तान तो सेकुलर था। आज के दिन इस देश की सबसे बड़ी गाली जो है वो सेकुलरिज्म, सबसे बड़ी गाली है। मुझे कभी तकलीफ नहीं हुई, मेरे सारे दोस्त हिंदू मुस्लिम सिख ईसाई, मैं फौजी हूं, मेरे लिए सब बराबर है यार। मैटर नहीं करता मेरे लिए कौन सी जात कौन से धर्म का है, क्योंकि हमारे लिए मुल्क सबसे बड़ा है, हमारा मजहब ये देश है, हम फौजी लोग। इन लोगों ने पहले अंग्रेजों के सच्चे भक्त है ये परिवार, खुद तो पाकिस्तान की, ये पाकिस्तान के गमलों में पले हुए गद्दार लोग हैं, उनके पैसों पे पल रहे हैं, उनके पैसों में पल रहे हैं। दोस्तों आप, हमारी सरकार आएगी, हमारी सरकार आएगी, कोई डाउट नहीं है, आएगी। इसलिए नहीं कि हम में कुछ जादू है, इसलिए कि हमारे जो मुद्दे हैं और हमारा जो नेता है और जो हमारी जो नीतियां हैं वो है राष्ट्र प्रथम, देश की सुरक्षा प्रथम, देश का विकास, अंतिम व्यक्ति तक लाभ पहुंचना चाहिए। हो सकता है देखो गलतियां होती हैं आदमियों से, और 60 साल की गंदगी सर, वो कीचड़, वो कितने भी लोग लगा दो यार, 5 साल में नहीं मिटता, टाइम लगता है, सिस्टम को ठीक होने में टाइम लगता है, ठीक है। लेकिन कम से कम इनके राज में आपको मालूम तो पड़ा, देश के अंदर भी गद्दार बैठे हैं। ये लेबोरेटरी है, जवाहरलाल नेहरू यूनिवर्सिटी, जादवपुर यूनिवर्सिटी, अलीगढ़ मुस्लिम यूनिवर्सिटी, ये लेबोरेटरी है भारत के अगले विभाजन की। मैं आपको बता रहा हूं, यहां पे ट्रायल होते हैं। कोई ये नारा लगाए राजीव जी के टुकड़े हों, पूनिया के टुकड़े हों, आपके टुकड़े हों, मोदी जी के हों, बीजेपी के, मान लो यार चल ठीक है, तेरे को नफरत हमसे कर ले भाई, भारत ने तेरा क्या बिगाड़ा, भारत तेरे टुकड़े हों। और अफजल गुरु, हम शर्मिंदा है तेरे कातिल जिंदा। अफजल गुरु कौन है भाई? अफजल गुरु तो जिसने पार्लियामेंट में अटैक किया, 9 हमारे साथियों को मारा। इस आपके देश की जो पार्लियामेंट क्या कोई बिल्डिंग नहीं है दोस्तों, पार्लियामेंट आपकी इस अंगुली से जो आप वोट दे रहे हो ना, ये 90 करोड़ लोगों का सिंबल है पार्लियामेंट, वरना बिल्डिंग का क्या है? वही मैं कह रहा हूं, भारत कोई ऐसा कोई नक्शा थोड़ना। तो पार्लियामेंट पे अटैक होने का मतलब है पूरे हिंदुस्तान पे अटैक हो गया, और उस लोगों के समर्थन में जाके केजरीवाल और राहुल गांधी जाके खड़े हो गए, कह रहे हैं सबूत दो। जब ये एयर स्ट्राइक हुई दोस्तों, मैं अर्णव के शो पे बैठा था सर, तो इन लोगों ने कहा कि सबूत चाहिए कि वहां पेड़ गिरे हैं, लोग नहीं मरे। कैन यू इमेजिन? हमारे देश का आदमी, हम उनको मार रहे हैं, बोल रहे हैं कि सबूत दो। मेरे एक दोस्त जो उस एयर स्ट्राइक 8 पायलट थे, उनमें से मेरे एक दोस्त हैं जूनियर, उन्होंने मेरे को उसी टाइम मैसेज किया और मैंने निकाल के रखा हुआ है, मैं उसका स्क्रीनशॉट था, मैं आपको पढ़ के सुनाता हूँ। सनी सर, अर्णव को कह दो कि नेक्स्ट टाइम जब भी इनको सबूत मांगने हो वो अपना नाम दे दें, अगली फ्लाइट में इनको कॉकपिट में बैठा के ले जाऊंगा, वहीं डाल कर। अजीब सीन है यार, मैं मेरे बाप से सबूत मांगू? दोस्तों, हिंदुस्तान की सेना के ऊपर मैं एक चीज बोल सकता हूं, दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी मॉरल आर्मी है, मॉरल आर्मी। हमारे साथियों ने पाकिस्तान से जब जंग हुई कारगिल में, उनके एक सैनिक मरे, उनको भी उनका फ्लैग लगा के गार्ड ऑफ ऑनर दिया, सैल्यूट दिया, क्योंकि लड़ाई जिंदा है तब तक है, मरने के बाद मौत और गरीबी सारे अंतर मिटा देती है, मौत और भूख सारे अंतर मिटा देती है। मरने के बाद में वो एक नॉर्मल आदमी, वो अपने देश के लिए लड़ रहा था। पाकिस्तान ने कभी उनको स्वीकार किया? अपने सैनिकों को स्वीकार नहीं किया, जिनकी जेब में पाकिस्तान आर्मी के आई कार्ड थे। इनको उनके ऊपर भरोसा। मैं केजरीवाल को बोल रहा हूं, भाई तू चंदे का हिसाब नहीं दे पा रहा है, तू देश की फौज से सबूत मांग रहा है। और एक मजबूत भारत के नागरिक और गौरवशाली भारत के नागरिक रहे। जय हिंद, जय भारत। एक बार भारत माता की जय, भारत माता की, भारत माता की, भारत माता की। शुक्रिया। यहाँ पे कोई अब्बा आंटी को बोलने वाला कोई नहीं था।
Some of you are raising the hands like this when you say Jai. It should be like this only, not like this.
During our tenure, from 2011 to 16, we have done the registration biometric for doctors. This is the first ever board in all over India from any field, I mean MBBS or whatever it is. Biometric online registration we have done.
Sir, actually, since we are having a lot
Sorry,
of time,
sorry,
actually,
I'm coming to the point.
Yeah, please.
Okay, this is a very big issue. I'm telling you, this is a very big issue.
Yeah, let it be the question
And the thing
specific. The
is,
question given here
he
is
is lucratively
can
selling the
we
certificate.
expect some
Suppose
stringent
if
norms
it
for the registration of the
suppose
doctors?
it reaches a
Yasin
terrorist.
Bhatkal terrorist. Sir, please, the question is here.
Yeah.
Yes, the Yasin Bhatkal terrorist is a fake Unani doctor. The question goes to the dignitaries on the dais.
I'm asking our medical professional and I'm asking for him. Suppose if it reaches the terrorist because of these kind of registers all over India, what will be the status, sir? Please.
It's a quite serious issue, no doubt. और क्योंकि जो नॉर्मल लैंग्वेज में कहते हैं कि भगवान के बाद में डॉक्टरी है
Please hand over the mic.
और जब अगर ऐसी सिचुएशन है तो इट्स वेरी सीरियस इशू। और मैं इनसे जो प्रोफेसर साहब हैं इनसे पूरा केस की डिटेल ले लूँगा और जब हमारी सरकार आएगी नहीं आना ही है उसमें तो कोई है ही नहीं तो जो हेल्थ मिनिस्टर है मैं खुद
वो
इस चीज़
गया
को
है,
लेके
जेपी
जाऊँगा।
नड्डा जी को गया है, पूरा ईमेल मेरे पास बाय हैंड है।
नहीं मैं जाके मैं खुद मिलूंगा कि इस चीज़ के ऊपर जांच होनी चाहिए और अगर वो इसमें दोषी हैं क्योंकि बिना कागज देखे मैं अभी यहाँ से तो नहीं बोल सकता या अगर जो पूरा अगर रिकॉर्ड पे अगर वो सब कुछ फेक है
सभी डॉक्यूमेंट है।
तो देन ही विल बी have the music, no doubt.
ओ सर, थैंक यू।
Thank you, doctor. Thank you, doctor, very much. Now there is another question from Santosh Hebbar, Advocate General Secretary. May I know whom to this question is? ಈ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ರಾಜೀವ್ ಚಂದ್ರಶೇಖರ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಮೇಜರ್ ಅವರಿಗ? Okay, the question is, what are the steps the government, rather the BJP is proposed to take to curtail and confirm the Cambridge Analytica, who are stringent in the Indian internal as well as the external matters, such touching the security of the nation?
Yeah, absolutely, sir. It's for both.
No,
Yes, both are involved in the.
No, this is a very, very important question. As you know, for the last many years, we have been talking about the positive effects of digitization and the internet. In the few years, especially in the last 1.5 years, we have seen, not just in India, we have seen it in the US, we have seen it in Western Europe, how the internet can also be misused from a range of areas, terrorists.
Or we can add it's abused.
Yes, so let's use the word abused. The regulatory and the policy framework in India is a very old one, ranges from 2008, the IT Act. The last few years, me and Ravi Shankar Prasad, the minister, we have been talking increasingly about creating a new legislative framework, including the Data Protection Act and a new regulatory environment. I think these are two things that are in the pipeline that you will see in the new government, which is that the internet cannot be misused by people either for crime or also for other purposes such as settling political scores. So there will be a legislative and a CRPC kind of a framework for regulating conduct and activities even in the internet.
Thank you, sir.
For sure.
Thank you very much, Santosh Hebbar, sir. Now there is a question from Divya Hegde, social activist. A question is very specific here, Madam Divya ji. Oh, thank you. Why can't we have a common country ID card? A wonderful question which has instigated many of the times along the national media. Yes.
No.
The question is to?
It's a brilliant question, and I think Atalji, if you look at 2002-2003, he started the idea of a national ID card. And the national ID card was proposed by Atalji, which became the UPA's Aadhaar. And unfortunately, like with most ideas that the UPA borrows, they watered it down, diluted it down, where they made it a so-called ID card but without verification.
Right.
That is why when Aadhaar was inherited by Narendra Modi ji, it had 600 million entries, of which there was an estimated 150 million fake entries. So we are where we are today. We have a database which is Aadhaar. That Aadhaar has now over the last 5 years been progressively cleaned up. The verification process now for a new Aadhaar entrant is far more rigorous. There is a law that makes UIDAI culpable if they give an Aadhaar to a fake person.
So my question was more specific than that. My question was, why don't we have a national
But
ID?
Aadhaar
Yeah.
is the gateway to national ID.
No. My question was, why don't we have a ID? Like, see, my husband is a resident of Qatar. So he has a ID which covers his blood group, his DL, his voter ID they have from
sure.
there. Everything together in one single card. His address, everything.
No, so
that's-
my answer is equally specific.
Yes,
My answer is that because we have had multiple identification,
right.
voter ID, passport, etc., license, etc., Aadhaar, as conceived by the NDA government, Atalji's NDA government, was the national identity card. It was in 10 years diluted down.
Oh.
Now what Prime Minister Modi is doing is taking it back in that direction. That along with the NRC, you know that there is a National Register for Citizenship.
Right, yes, sir.
Because Aadhaar, the way the UPA built it, never confirmed citizenship. Anybody could get it if you had an address in, let us say, Udupi or Bangalore or Manipal or anywhere. So we have the next step of it is to create a citizenship layer over the database, which will then allow for national identity cards to be created. It is not simple because 1.3 billion people in India, almost 600 to 800 million people have no identity at all.
Right, sir.
So it's very difficult to give an identity card. How will you prove their identity? So Aadhaar is a step towards that if this path continues.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. I have one more tiny question. Sorry about the time. Just one more. Sir, the voter IDs. When we give all the information towards the voter IDs, we give it very nicely documented. Each one written in capitals. But when the voter ID comes to us, it comes with all wrong spellings and wrong names and all missed information. So this has to be corrected,
No.
sir.
So the answer is you are only for the first time under Narendra Modi ji seeing the use of technology in a massive way.
Right.
As we move forward, the digitization of government will become more and more, and therefore these kind of problems will get addressed more and more.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Sir, that it is the first time you are in the Modi government. That means Dubai aayega zarur, no problem. Okay. There is another question from Sadarshi Rao sir, retired principal. What measures are taken in holding the respective state government? He has written about Kerala and West Bengal accountable for the welfare of the people. Wonderful question, sir. Sadarshi Rao sir. Yeah, please. Question to whom, sir?
No. Who should hold accountable? In our democratic setup, the only people who can hold a government accountable, elected government accountable, are the citizens who elected.
So when the crimes are committed against individuals by the opposite parties, for example in West Bengal that's happened.
Or Kerala, yes.
Kerala.
Yes.
The government should be held accountable for such crimes against the citizens. The
By-
primary duty of the government is to protect their citizens, and that's not happening.
No,
There
so-
has to be some mechanism.
No, so let me, I'm sorry I may sound a little preachy, but let me explain to you how this works. Every government has an obligation, when they take an oath, the chief minister has an obligation to uphold the constitution and the law. That is the obligation side. On the right side, every citizen has a right to life. Guarantee in West Bengal is the government is complicit with those who commit crime. So the only way to hold that government accountable, unfortunately in our parliamentary system, we don't have a way of recalling the government. The only way is to try and prosecute those who are committing a crime, or as in the case of Kerala, for example, where we know Pinarayi Vijayan is accused number 1 in a crime that was committed in 1967. But our legal system is so, let us say, tenuous and long and delayed. Rule of law applied to also politicians and chief ministers. I'll just use one more example. Recently, the income tax raided some contractors in Karnataka. You know it. What happened? Immediately, H.D. Kumaraswamy, the most right honorable H.D. Kumaraswamy, along with Dr. Parmeshwara, went in front of the income tax office and geared it. Yake? How? Why? 3 days later, they found 6.5 crores from the contractors. That is why. But what happened 4 days ago, I have gone and given a memorandum on behalf of my party to the governor. He is in violation of 2 laws. First, he violated his oath of secrecy by revealing an impending income tax raid. It is not a simple issue. When a chief minister takes an oath and says, I will uphold the constitution and I will uphold and will keep secrets, it means if he says something which is a secret, he is in violation of his oath and his constitutional position. Second, he, by going outside the income tax office and threatening the income tax office in the pursuit of their duty, has obstructed justice, implying that there are 2 standards of law in this country. That is, if I am Kumaraswamy's friend and I commit a crime, I am somehow immune. I can be made immune by him doing obstruction of justice. That is not the way our founding fathers wrote the law. So I can assure you today in front of you, I guarantee to you, those 2 charges will be pursued against him. He has violated the law and he will be held accountable.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. There was a suggestion actually when Rajiv Sarji was mentioning about income tax. There was a suggestion from a chartered accountant Ganesh Kamatji here. Just like we pay the home tax, and should we also liable for income tax? So he's saying that national security tax should be there, and defense budget also should be started in the next Modi government. Wonderful suggestion. Ganesh Kamatji, please.
Ganesh Kamatji, this is a brilliant idea. Yakendre, there has been a discussion and a concept of a national security cess, not a tax, like a cess that every citizen pays or every income earning citizen pays, so that the defense budget is not subject to ups and downs depending on the fiscal situation of our economy. In my opinion, it's a good idea because it provides for a consistent commitment by the nation to the armed forces and the defense that we will give so much of money regardless of whether the tax revenues go up or go down, whether the economy is a good year or a bad year. So I think it's a good idea, but I think we need more debate about it.
The next question is to Major Sir. Please, actually, what are the steps you are going to control take anti-national students in the war? Wonderful. JNU and AMU, who is this? Dr. Rajesh Bairi. Thank you very much for asking the right question, sir.
One more reason कि मोदी सरकार बने. पहली चीज है कि ऐसी चीजें जैसे कन्हैया का हुआ, आपको पता ही है. दिल्ली पुलिस ने चार्जशीट फाइल की. जब चार्जशीट फाइल करते हो तो सरकार की परमिशन चाहिए आपको, और दिल्ली के जो मुख्यमंत्री हैं केजरीवाल जी, उन्होंने परमिशन देने से मना कर दिया. जब सरकार परमिशन नहीं दे रही है तो कोर्ट तक फाइल ही नहीं पहुंच रही है, तो केस का फैसला कैसे होगा? कन्हैया ने टीवी पे आके सबके सामने कहा कि क्या ये रोड पे जस्टिस होगा क्या? आपको याद होगा जब उन्होंने भारत तेरे टुकड़े होंगे के नारे लगाए और उनको पुलिस जब पकड़ के लेके जा रही थी, तो उनमें से कुछ जो युवा यंग एंग्री जो जिनको गुस्सा आया हुआ था, उन वकीलों ने उसके साथ हाथापाई की. मैं उसके समर्थन में नहीं हूँ, लेकिन उसी वक्त मैं आपको एक चीज ये भी कहना चाहूंगा कि जब आप देश को गाली दे रहे हो, जब आप भारत माता को गाली दे रहे हो, तो जस्ट इमेजिन इंडिया गेट के ऊपर आप खड़े हो अपनी माँ बहन बेटी के साथ, एक आदमी आए और आपकी या मेरी माँ बहन बेटी के साथ बदतमीजी करे सरेआम सड़क के ऊपर, और उसके लिए गिल्टी भी फील ना करे, और हीरो बन के बोले मैंने कर दिया, कर लो जो कुछ करना, तो उसी वक्त क्या आप थाने जाएंगे? क्या आप FIR लिखाने जाएंगे? मैं आपसे पूछना चाह रहा हूँ, मतलब आप सिटीजन है देश के, जो ये लोग बड़ी बड़ी बातें करते हैं ना टीवी पे आके ज्ञान देते रहते हैं, उनसे कभी आप पूछो कि क्या राजदीप सागरिका घोष के साथ इंडिया गेट पे कोई लुच्चा लफंगा बदतमीजी करे तो क्या आप FIR लिखाने जाएंगे या उसी वक्त उसको 2 जाफट मारेंगे, उसको बोलेंगे बदतमीजी बंद करो, अदरवाइज मैं ये करूँगा। तो एक तरफ है कानून, एक तरफ है लोगों की भावनाएं। मैं कानून में भी भरोसा करता हूं और मैं लोगों की भावनाओं में भी भरोसा करता हूं। बाकी आप क्योंकि कानून बदलने में टाइम लगता है। इन लोगों का इलाज जरूरी है, ये मैं मानता हूं।
There is a question from originally from Kashmir, Dr. Rahul Magazine. Is it correct? Are you from Kashmir? Yeah, okay. Should we expect Article 370 to be removed in the next Modi government? It is to Major Saab.
Absolutely. सर मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट है तो सर का वोट पहले है।
Absolutely.
So next question is, what is the criteria to remove Article 370 and 35A, that is Sumuk S? Sumuk S. Major Saab, what is the criteria to remove Article 370 and 35A?
देखो 35A ये टेम्परेरी प्रोविजन है संविधान में, और मैं संविधान का कोई विशेषज्ञ नहीं हूँ, लेकिन मैं राष्ट्रपति भवन में रहा हूँ 7 साल। तो मुझे इतना पता है कि जो वहाँ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल जो एक्सपर्ट थे वो हमेशा इतना कहते थे कि 2 तरीके हैं इसको हटाने के। एक है पार्लियामेंट में जो लिखा हुआ है कि जम्मू कश्मीर की असेंबली से वहाँ से पहले पास होगा, फिर इधर आके लोकसभा और राज्यसभा में पास होगा। ये लोगों को बावड़ा बनाने वाली जो लंबी चौड़ी प्रक्रिया है वो है। जो सही सिस्टम है वो है कि प्रेसिडेंशियल ऑर्डर इंजेक्शन किया हुआ था, बाद में ऐड किया गया था, और प्रेसिडेंट के एक ऑर्डर पे ये रिमूव किया जा सकता है। उसके बाद में ये चीखते चिल्लाते कोर्ट में घूमते रहेंगे, चलता रहेगा, लेकिन
Okay, this is the last question. Last question. How do we bring our country's media outlets together to stand united in the matter of national security armed forces? Uttaran Trivedi. Yeah.
How do we make Pakistan stop backing terrorism? That's an easier question. No, I'm sorry I was being facetious, but the media in India, especially now with digital media, is in a race to get eyeballs and race to get audiences. So in the race to get audiences, the first thing that suffers is truth. The second thing that suffers is a commitment to the country. And the third thing that suffers is item A and item B together. So I think the only answer to this is, and I have to take this on, I take this a lot, this question is posed to me a lot, is that we as citizens and we as viewers and audience for the media, please understand, media will not survive if they don't have an audience. If we become very clear about the fact that we will only listen to, watch, read, or subscribe to those media outlets and those reporters who speak to the truth and speak to the national interest, then automatically those who don't will understand that they will have a limited audience here. So there is no easy answer to that question, because I can tell you when I launched, when I helped found Republic, I was for 3 months, I was the most trolled, most vilified, most attacked person in this country. But I never lost my temper, I never did anything that I shouldn't do. But it is sometimes frustrating that you watch media brands and media people get away with absolute unacceptable conduct and unacceptable behavior towards the country. Forget about individual issues, but the way they deal with the army, the way they deal with sacrifices, way they deal with issues relating to national security is truly bothersome. And the only answer is, I can only advise, is that we must boycott those who are not subscribing to India First. We must not engage with people who do not say that we believe in India. And this is not, I'm not rabble-rousing, I'm not asking you to do something wrong, but this is absolutely something that is legitimately our duty to do. That we cannot encourage and we must not encourage the growth and proliferation of those media outlets that go to the heart of attacking India.
Okay, since we are giving more importance for the national security, there is a last question from the veteran side, Dinesh Naik ji.
I had a question.
Dinesh Naik ji, please.
I had a question.
Dinesh Naik ji, please.
I am Dinesh Naik. I served in Indian Air Force. I had a privilege to serve actively in both 1965 and 71 wars. until 65 war, we fought with just Nats, Hunters and Canberras. They are even outdated at that time also. But Pakistan had F-86 Sabre jets and F-104 Starfighters. They were much superior to us. But because of a skill and expertise of our pilots, our Nats could shoot down many of the Sabre jets, and they were called Sabre killers. Then from army side, from Rajasthan border, once more than 100 Patton tanks, they were advancing towards India. We have only one unit guarding that area with only few guns and few soldiers. But the Lieutenant Colonel who he recently expired, was heading that, he had a courage to withstand them. But how long we can withstand? But then our hunters, they were outdated aircraft, but they came in waves. At 5 o'clock they started raiding and they destroyed 100 Patton tanks. It is a world record. In the Longala border, they destroyed more than 100 Patton tanks, and that area is still called as Patton tank graveyard. Now 71 war, we had Sukhoi 7, had a privilege to serve in Sukhoi 7 squadron and MiG-21. We could give a better fight them. Now, even then, they had much superior aircraft. Now today, they are having F-16. F-16, we say that they cannot use against India. But there is one condition, for self-defense they can use it. So they will definitely use it against India. There is a much superior aircraft. They have got F-5s provided by China, and many latest aircraft are provided by China. And still we have got the Mirage 2000. We have got other aircraft, but we still need Rafale. So we should not delay the bringing up the Rafale. We should make we should get the Rafale urgently.
No, so let me just respond. I can assure you that Prime Minister Modi understands what you have said more than anybody else in this room. He is committed to modernizing the armed forces, the Navy, the Air Force and the Army. Despite all of the mud that has been flung on him, despite all of the lies that have been put on him, he has not wavered, because he is not doing this for himself or X or Y. He is doing this because it will give the Indian Air Force a tactical, strategic advantage over China and Pakistan that is absolutely in the country's interest. And the Rafale will be in India soon. The Rafale will fly over Jammu and Kashmir, and Pakistan will keep their airplanes in the airfield.
We apologize for the other people actually who asked the question because of the shortage of the time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is my distinguished honor to express gratitude on behalf of the Patriotic Forum of Udupi. Our hearty regards to Sri Rajiv Chandrasekhar, an MP who has always pushed for welfare of army personnel for this engaging session on national security. A big thank you to Surendra Punya for delivering such a strong keynote address on pressing national security issues. Warm gratitude to all army personnel and ex-army personnel for making this August gathering so successful. My hearty gratitude to the entire audience and fraternity of intellectuals and patriots of this nation for their presence and contribution to this session. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to place on record my hearty thanks to each person who has worked tirelessly behind the scenes in making this evening special. On a parting note, I would like to quote, "May the sun in his course visit no land more free, more happy, more lovely than this country." Jai Hind.